Fabrizio. So we've reached quite an exciting moment now, where there's quite a lot of strategy and focus in terms of building your brand and moving forward and so on. What does it feel like right now for you? Just to kind of like be in this moment and, setting the foundation for where you're going as Fabrizio Morgia. How does it feel and where do you find yourself now?
Well, I think it's exciting for first place, but also it's like new beginnings for me. So it's exciting, but it feels like it's been there before, but it's just taking on a much bigger meaning now, I think. Yeah. So I think it would be more apt to say that it's really a new journey. Yeah, totally new journey for me.
Well, that's great. So we're coming off the back of your last album release for Ignition. So tell us about that album and the inspiration and the message behind it.
Okay, so that album was never planned, to be honest. So it came about, I was originally working on a production, and that was my full time. And then I got onto this by just an idea that I was going to do this album. But when it started as it was going to have to be a quaint, like just in a lounge kind of setup with Persian carpets and that sort of thing, with like almost unplugged version. And then this whole vision was hijacked, for lack of better words. So, and then before I knew it, it turned into this whole like concert kind of thing. So now these songs that are on this album are all a collection of songs I've done before. And some of them were just lying around from 2014 that I had written then. And, but when we played them, so when it came to the first night where we were supposed to do this so-called concert, I saw that some of these songs were actually had attraction. I played some of these new songs. So I thought, let's do an album about it and, see where it goes. But it wasn't supposed to be like this whole big spread out thing with this whole media campaign. And lo and behold, rather than what I wanted to do is I had candles around this whole thing. The mood was that with people sitting around us on these carpets. It was like very like, what's a word? Romantic. I didn't want to use that word, but and then it turned out all these lights, a full-out concert for 2 hours. Now we needed material to fill the show, so that's where all these songs started taking its place, and then the vibe and the whole, how can I say, the style of songs actually started taking place while I was in the studio. We just said, okay, let's see where this goes. And that's why I let it run. In other words, I didn't want to control it as such. So whoever had an input on this album was just like, whatever we felt at the time. As a matter of fact, you hear that the songs differ. They vary in style a lot. And the purpose of the album there was very more faith-based and gospel-y. In a sense, I was making, and I don't know if you went there with this question, but I was making certain points I wanted to make with the songwriting, which I think were made, very strong points. Some went over certain people's heads because I think when I heard the lyrics again, they were very, how can I say, deep, let's say, and they take on a very spiritual meaning, which sometimes, is like, it's not to gas people out, but for some people it's just over their heads. It's not, where they are. But I still got to express what I wanted to express through that album. Yeah.
So on that note, maybe just elaborate on some of these themes that you're referring to. What are some of these deeper spiritual meanings and elements? Maybe just give a bit of context to that, because it could be perceived as just very faith or gospel based, right? But there's deeper meaning behind it. What are some of these themes that you wanted to illustrate or communicate?
When people go to faith-based community, in my case church, you do what comes out on a Sunday, and that's good. I've done my bit for the cause. I've come in on Sunday and then I live my my life and that. But the thing is with and I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people, they might know but not understand that there is a spiritual side to what we live. It's a very real thing, and it's not about me arguing with people about it because I've lived it. And and people like me around when you've been in that let's say, in that realm, you understand what you're talking about. It all gets done first in the spiritual before you see it actually happen in the reality. That's the reality, the wake-up call for a lot of us. It's definitely the way it works. And a lot of people who have that understanding, whether it be from a good or a bad point of view, they use it very powerfully in business, in a lot of stuff, that they use the spiritual in a very, very powerful way. And being from a point of view that I understand this, the songs I wrote, the words about it were actually in the spiritual, making very definite affirmations, countering what I believe is bad. And from my perspective, being the good, fighting bad, you know, for lack of, let's say easy words, you know, for layman's terms, I call it meat and potatoes. And so these words, when they're spoken, you have to speak something in order for it to have an effect. If you don't speak it, nothing's going to happen. It's just like the Bible. The Bible is just words on a page. And I'm sure I'm not going to get good feedback from that, but they are. When they're on the page, they mean nothing. It's the spoken thing. And I wanted to highlight this from an incantation point of view. An incantation has no power unless you speak it. Or putting objects on a floor and thinking they're going to curse someone is not it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't work. It's what you speak over them that makes it powerful. And with this album, what I was saying on it is the power behind the music. That's how I was making a point behind this. So I believe it affects people positively or negatively, depending what the energy is behind it. Yeah, I don't know if I've elaborated enough on that answer.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. And thank you for sharing.
No.
So considering that most of your albums to date were faith-based or have had a gospel theme, what does the future albums look like? You know, are there different themes to look forward to?
Yeah, definitely. Look, it will always be from my base, you know, of what I believe in, because that's my fundamentals. I grew up Catholic, like proper Catholic, and then, you know, and that was my foundation. My dad made sure I went to church. Now I have a more broader spectrum because I've been walking this my whole life. So I see this more, you know, not so rigid and stuff like that. I've seen the more humanity thing, place in be it religion or in real life. So now going forward, my trampoline point of view, if you will be a lot more experimental in the sense that I want to reach a lot more people. I don't want to reach the people in the church. I want to reach people out there in the sense of saying what it's actually all about. And it doesn't always encompass biblical themes as in biblical themes. It can be about relationships. It can be about lost disappointments. It can be about a lot of things, you know, that don't necessarily have to be hell, brim, and, you know, brimstone and firewater. It's all positive messages, you know, taken from my foundation, but I want to explore a lot of that. But also I want to change the style of music a lot to go more orchestral. I want to do a lot more of that, you know, involving a lot more music types, sound types, music styles with the orchestral. And I want to include choral in that as well and see where we go from that. I want to take this to new levels, in my view anyway. Yeah.
What I hear is that you really want to touch people's lives and you want to be able to affect change, you know, out there, you know, make the world a better place in a way. What would you say is your purpose, you know, and your vision ultimately? What is your purpose and where do you see the future going?
Well, look, I have no interest in just writing nice songs. I'm not going to stand on a stage and entertain people. At this point in my life, what I do has to have an impact. Otherwise, you know, might as well just pack up my psalmies. What I want to do through the music is, the previous message I made is to make people aware that life is not just so one plane, and there's a lot more to this life than actually meets the eye. And if I can impact anybody positively who's going through any sort of hassle, if they've had a past suicidal attempt, for whatever reason, who has come off serious drug abuse or anything, you know, and I can have a positive influence on that, then I'll have achieved my small sphere in this world, I think, and then I'll be appeased. I wanna make an impact through the music. So from a point of view, that's just from my standing. I believe that in order to change any country or any community, you have to change the heart. You can beat them to death by authority and that, but you know, in their heart, they're still saying, I still don't submit. So you haven't done anything. You have to change a person inside here and inside here in order to effectively change a community. Yeah, and I think music does it in many powerful ways. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
All right. Then I also need you to refer to previous conversations that we've had, where you've mentioned around the fact that, you know, you want to push the boundaries in the arts and in the entertainment industry. So I need you to now just elaborate on that point. You know, what is that big driving force for you, and how do you potentially see that play out?
I see, and I understand there's always a financial factor to this sort of thing, but me, I like fantastic. I like fantastic shows due to the bands that I grew up watching, and I think that, you know, even at a smaller scale, entertainment, I don't think that the boundaries are pushed hard enough in the sense of creativity with now, you know, with special effects and CGI and stuff like that at the lower levels there. And I want to do that from my perspective, so that I'm not standing on a stage and saying, this is the next song, next song, next song, next song, and look how good I can play my guitar. No, I want to provide value for money in the sense of pushing the boundaries, in sense of anything you can possibly think, it can be done. So, you know, it's not normally just the LED screens or stuff like that. It's in the way you think you're going to connect with a crowd. And anything goes, in my view, within reason, you know, within boundaries, you know, let's say. But otherwise, I think sometimes we are too, we are too watchful, you know, and safe in the way we communicate, thinking that people won't be able to handle, or it will be too much for them. And I think when you do that, you don't have the courage to actually push your boundaries. You'll never find out where and how far you can take yourself. And from that point of view, I'm saying you cannot really see where your limits lie or your potential if you don't actually push your boundaries in any area of your life. You're just going to lead a safe life. Incidentally, I heard someone say something yesterday that was very good. He said, if you don't actually push boundaries and you take the normal road, people will always respect you as a wise man. But in effect, you're actually acting in fear. And to confront something that's in front of you takes courage. And that's what splits the man from the boys, or the woman from the girls, whatever it is, you know, is you being able to actually go for this place, for this, let's say, obstacle, and push it aside and say, you know what, I don't know what's standing on the other side, but I want to find out. And that's the pushing of the boundaries in terms of creativity, and actually in anything you do in life, you know.
So talking about, you know, pushing boundaries, if you were pushing your own personal boundaries now, what are your dreams look like? You know, where is it that you are going ultimately with your ideal future?
Well, I've written this production. It's a musical. I won't elaborate on the name just yet because I think it'll come out at the right time. But this is a very ambitious show, production. It's very resource intensive, so it's not just lights and things. I want to really explore a lot of the things with flames and stuff like that. It's been done before, but in different ways, let's say. And this, I want to actually put this up and then start touring with it. I want to do that. I know it's very ambitious, but based on my previous answer, otherwise I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't do this. So I want to do this, and I want to do this in a big theatre again, which I've done before, and then take it around the world, really. That is my ambition. And then start, and I would like to export this as a South African product. Yeah, and all the spin-offs that come out with that, yeah.
What do you see the role, how do you see the role of technology play in the future of arts?
It's going to change everything. It has already. I don't think people understand AI and all this. The chips have changed. The playing game, the playing levels have all changed. I was just looking, I've been doing it. I'm not, because otherwise I'd be a hypocrite. I've been looking at this whole AI in the music industry, and I think it's game over in many ways, in the sense the way the status quo things were previously, it has suddenly changed, like seriously, because if you look what you can do through AI in the music industry now, the quality is just above you. You cannot, and our future is working with it. Now, this is the thing where in my industry, I've always been around the purist guitarists that always speak about tone, which is cool. But we're not going to stay there all the time. And the thing is, the sooner we understand that, the better it is in order for evolving, if that's where you want to go. I will never survive if I don't do that. So I have to embrace technology in its fullness. And that means imagery, the technology behind the way it's created now, the assistance you get from AI in creating high level imagery on screens and stuff like that. You cannot ignore it. You have to embrace it. And that's something I've had to do. I know because I've had backlash on people I know that, then you actually, it's not the words they use, but, they almost make you feel like you're a traitor to the human cause. But I just don't see this happening any other way. We're going to have to embrace it. And I think we'll be better for it in the sense of our level of achievement. We've always battled with new ideas, with nuclear, some people will want to blow up the world. Other people want to provide power. And that's just the reality of this life. And I think if we look at it from a positive point of view, technology will be awesome for us. The things we can do with it now, it will be unbelievable, at least in my mind. And I believe I have a very fantastic mind. So why wouldn't I use it? And that's why I do.
So obviously there's a lot of positive potential and impact with using and implementing technology within the arts and the entertainment industry. But what do you believe that there might be dangers and possible negative, results or influences from this? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Look, right now what's happening, and I'm just stating the obvious because, obvious for me because I've gone and explored it. But nowadays you do text, to music output. So basically I just explain verbally the kind of music I want the song and what it must be about. And it spits it out in 30 seconds. And the production on it is unbelievable. So when someone can do that, you understand, now I can do this. I can now, out of my own, now I'm giving people ideas. But it's out there already anyway. Think about how I can change the playing field. Now me as a layman who just likes music, can't play an instrument, I do this through the various AI platforms. And it shoots out the song after 30 seconds. Now what I want to do is I go and hire musicians, actual musicians, to replicate this live. But I am the actual executor, so the producer as such. Or what's it called? Sorry, I keep doing this. What's it called? Executive producer, really. Now anyone can do this. Anyone can produce this kind of music who's always had a passion for music. And someone will say, yeah, but you can't, because if you don't have a musical mind, how are you going to do it? It's not like that, because I've seen it work with people that just have a passion for music. My wife, she's very one-sided brained, very, all
logical.
Yeah. And, but she loves orchestra and stuff like that. Someone like her will put it in, and actually I'll do this experiment with her and actually show or put it on the net what she came up with. And you'll be shocked. This little input I'm giving now, imagine how this could change the whole playing field, because it's not no more a virtuoso guitarist that can only do this anymore. He can do it on stage, but I can write a piece of music that I would have liked to do, and just hire someone else to do it. And it's perfectly possible.
doesn't it then take, or potentially, take out the heart and the soul and of that music and that production if it's artificially created? Does it not have a different feel to it if it's not, created with soul?
I think what will happen, this is my opinion, a lot of people will take credit now and will be asked to provide the proof maybe, or so. This is like totally human and a stamp of approval in some way. I don't know how it will come out, but and you'll have your audience that will want the purest feel and say, no, I don't subscribe to AI. And if you've used AI in any way, I'm not coming to your show. And I think that will happen. You will get an element of that, definitely. But for those that want to go forward and implement, they will have their own crowd. Like, and it won't spell the death of the soul, you understand? But it's just giving you a new avenue if you want it. There'll always be, there's bands, big bands touring the world still now, that, have huge audiences. Metallica, it's not going to die as such, but, it's just embracing the new to marrying it to the old. And that's what we've always done as humans. It's not, we always overcome. And I think the soul factor will always be there. We'll always have a big input in what gets dictated in the market. I really believe that.
So do you believe there is a future for authentic, people and artists within the arts and entertainment industry? Do you feel that there's still a future for individuals to play a part in that?
Absolutely. Look, where we are at the moment, we're on a stage. This is in a community-based center. And when it comes to Christmas, when it comes to all these sorts of things, you are not going to put a robot on a stage to replace your kid being in a pantomime or something, That's always going to be around. It's a new avenue, a new market that's opened up. That's all. But the existing market, the humanity about things is still, I believe, going to survive forever. I don't see a threat in that personally. I just can't see how, you can't, how can you mimic feelings? It's just, it's not going to happen. You can't mimic feel, touch, smell. They can say they do, but, we're a long way off if it will ever be available. So I'm a true believer, to cap off, that the human side of the arts and the creativity will always be there, but a big market has suddenly opened up, and that's, can I just add this? When I was after my high school days, in my college days and studying, I was studying to be engineer, architecture, drawing. And what happened was, a guy came to me and says, no, he went and he's working. Now he suddenly saw that computers were taking over the drawing industry. So what did he do? He went and did a software course. You understand? Now, the reaction to that in those days, can you imagine? Who's going to draw anymore? What's going to happen? But lo and behold, it is a lot of software driving this, but it's humans driving the software. So we have evolved and we've made use of that technology. And much happened the same when it took over music, because the purists were saying, no. I still record on a reel. I remember it clearly. I will never always on a reel, the 8-inch. And then slowly, this will never be good enough quality. And now if you look, I want to see one studio that has, not many studios have reels anymore, if any. Computers have taken over, but we still found our place in that industry, much the same as the arts, in general.
So you've mentioned the production, and that's definitely within the nearer future. What is beyond that? How do you feel you can or want to ultimately impact or influence the future generations within the arts and the entertainment space?
Well, I'd like to use holographic stuff. That just opens up a whole new field. It's very expensive and it's not really available to just anybody, So, but that's my vision where I'm going to, and it doesn't mean I'm going to have a hologram of people on a stage, you know, but to incorporate it with imagery, 3D imagery on stage and stuff around that, where they integrate. So in other words, bands are playing or orchestras are playing, people are acting and actually speaking to these holographic images on stage, and the dynamics that you can bring through that is mind-blowing. I can think of so many different types. Yeah, that's where I'm aiming to go.
And what about imparting some of your knowledge and your experience onto the next generation? Where do you see yourself playing a part in the education or the development and the learning of this, you know, in the future?
I don't know about the education, because today's generation is just switched on, man. They know. From a wisdom point of view, and experience, yes. That, yeah, what seemed to work, what didn't seem to work, a lot to do with the personal conflicts kind of stuff that happened within that realm as well. You know, there's always on how people deal with each other, and that from that aspect, and that as well plays a huge part as to how you get around in the industry and become effective and not ineffective in the sense where half the world wants to kill you. But from relationship point of view and stuff like that, yes. In terms of technical, nowadays, people have exposure to all the best. The internet is just a realm of intellect now that's unsurpassed. So,
Fabrizio, what role do you see yourself play in the future, especially within the learning or the development or the imparting of your knowledge and your experience, or even just developing the next generation in the arts and entertainment space?
Okay, firstly, it's possible. That statement, that it is possible. And I think when you start off from that, it opens up a whole realm, because otherwise you don't even get started. Through all this that I spoke about earlier, I mean, it has so many facets, that in turn, my vision is to impart that on people that would otherwise never have that opportunity. And it can be educational, it can be, but the thing is, what always was an issue for me in the past was that when we went, in my days, we went to Technikon, and some went to varsity. Now, the varsity students never had the hands-on experience. They'd have the head knowledge, and that says a lot about, you can imagine where I'm going to with this, but if you don't have experience, you've got nothing. And the thing is, when I went to college, what was happening is you had 3 months education, 3 months on-site working. And that seemed to work well for the more hands-on, individual. The same for the arts. There's a lot that happens when you go and you study music, all the genres, and it's a very different thing when they put you on a stage and you're dealing with business and you're dealing with all this kind of stuff. That now, suddenly you're a fish out of water, and to navigate through that, there's courses and stuff, but not many people make it to the end, and because of the negativity that comes back from it, is people don't even start. They don't even say, forget it. Or parents might have the reaction of saying, look, that's not a money-making industry, or something that, which are very real issues. It's not all about just the creativity. So from that aspect is opening up the possibilities of something big as this, and it being possible to anybody. It doesn't matter from what walk of life you come from, that you can also attend any sort of show like this, but from a more practical point of view, where you actually see and learn the behind the scenes behind something like that, and that anybody will say, look, I never thought about that, but now that I see it, this is something I could really go for. And that, I think, probably talent scouting would be a good way of saying it. But yes, it would open the door to the fine arts or the arts in general to a lot bigger audience in doing it like this. I think it's very niche market. We've made it in many ways. It's only certain people that have the intellect or the brilliance to create shows like this, but you just don't know how much potential is out there that can actually do it. And with their input, how much they could actually be adding to the industry. So yes, I think I have a lot to give in that aspect, from experience in that aspect, and from not just an artist point of view, but a lot with what happens behind the stage and what you can imagine and actually make happen. And in doing that, actually expose people hands-on to this sort of thing, to the arts in general.
So it goes beyond just the stage, the production, and the performance. But I'm assuming that we're referring to production management, sound engineering, etc., which a lot of people sometimes forget, because they just see the show.
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of that is actually, look, people do that. They go for courses on that. But, your relativity to industry, markets and stuff like that are very real issues that one only gets to deal with when you're exposed to them. And that's what I would like to have a hand in doing to a lot more people, yeah.
What would you say are some of the driving forces in your life?
As in standpoint, foundational driving forces?
Yeah. Are there key principles or kind of values or things that you believe that kind of drive you on your day-to-day life?
Yeah. So this was always reality for me in the music industry. And I'm going to touch on nerves. But for me, one thing was punctuality. And I was always at odds with the music industry as such, because it was never a real thing. And I used to get really worked up about that sort of thing, because I thought, why is it that because I'm a musician, I have to be sloppy about my timing? And I don't know if I don't have a German side in me at all, so I don't know where this punctuality comes from, but it's a big thing from me. Integrity, that kind of stuff, like in doing what you promise you do, and do it timelessly. Those kind of things for me are enduring qualities which go a long way in any industry, let alone the arts industry. Which, if I may say it in just a very soft way, is never a champion cause. It's not qualities that are always adhered to. Let's just put it that way. I hope I haven't been too harsh.
So you speak passionately about these principles, as an example, punctuality.
Yes.
So what does punctuality mean to you? What are you referring to in specific, and why is it important?
Many times in a show, there is always a large contingency that arrives when they want. And there's no leeway made for unforeseen issues or stuff like that. I'm the type of person that gets to the airport 2 hours before the time, because I'm not hypochondriac, but the thing is, it's happened to me so many times that I've come off the deep end where flight's been changed or whatever. I've left the wallet. Anything can go wrong, and it just gives you that headroom. And in none more so than in the arts, in the theatre industry, music industry. But some of us, I was always it used to frustrate me in a big way when they just used to arrive like half an hour before the time. I think, and then suddenly you had to plug in your guitar, or everything has to be done for you. And, here I am, that sort of thing, those kind of attitudes, they cause major issues in putting out a professional product. Now, I know what I'm saying here, I'm touching, buttons, but that's my experience.
You've also mentioned before around, the punctuality aligns to having respect for another person's
Absolutely.
time.
100%.
What does that mean to you?
Well, it's respect for someone else's time. I just don't care about you. You can wait for me, that sort of thing. It just in general, I see it like, I had to overcome myself over years. My wife will say about traffic, because some people just don't care, and it's the same. It's not just punctuality. It's about, I think, now I'm not perfect in any mean, but it's just issues that cause so many problems. And those are just standpoints which I think my dad taught me, and which I've seen work in life in general. They apply to all sorts of, any walk of life. I think anyone could put those to practice in real life, and it would make for a better life for anybody else. And that's what I meant.
What does integrity mean to you?
Integrity, that's a big subject. Integrity could be doing what you actually said you would do, and to the full, not half a product, and then that's a major thing. Is integrity in that. Integrity in the way you deal with people in general. Shows a lot about your respect for them, in the sense that the way they feel about certain things, their way, their standpoint, and the way you carry yourself integriously around their opinions, let's say. It can be in many issues. Integrity forms a large part, I think, of society when you want to build on good relationships going forward. The first impression is always a lasting impression, so I place a lot of money on that. Yeah.
You've also mentioned to me before that you need to have the humility to admit your failures.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I think I'm not a champion of that. But if you don't have the humility to admit your failures, you won't move on. And that's just the way it is. That's spiritually and physically. If you don't tackle what your failures were, hey, you're going to repeat them. You're never going to deal with them. And, then you're repeating something is, there's this common clause that says doing the same thing over again and expecting different results, that's madness. So that's the thing in learning the lesson as quickly as possible and having the humility before people. You don't have to say it, but, to actually them saying, look, he's changed. That's the proud moment where you say, look, I don't want to admit to that. But invariably, that's when that makes you a much more powerful person, successful person, is when you're willing to adapt to what you know is right and you actually being wrong. Yeah.
That leads into honesty. What does honesty mean to you?
Well, in South Africa, it means a lot. I think you don't have to be in a church to be honest. You can be honest anyway. And the thing is that I think as a country, I can speak from my personal point of view. I'm getting political now. But even as a musician, that would go a long way. Honesty, if that was a motto, we'd avoid a lot of problems in this country. Starting from the top down. I'll just leave it at that. And I think honesty in the way you deal with a person, not just in transactions, but in feelings, with other people. That's also an honest point of view, and I think that will also help. Yeah.
You've mentioned previously that you sometimes are applying honesty even to your own detriment.
Look, I've been dishonest to my own detriment in the long run, in big ways. So because of that, I mean, I'm not going to mention my age on the air, but I'm not young anymore, so that young. You get to learn. And the thing is, I've never shied away from trying. So I've been hit with a bat on the head a few times. And that's the best way, I think, sometimes to learn. And as a result, if I have to look, what I'd like to start saying about that is, I'm not a champion of that. So, but I know that's the way to go. So, I've been dishonest to my own detriment many times, and as a result, learned the lessons. Because when you pushed your back into a corner through lack of experience or whatever, and now the coming out right with whatever you did wrong was just too much of an embarrassment. So dishonesty is the next best thing, in whatever way it might be. And that's, but in the long run, what I reaped from that dishonesty was was crazy. So I thought, look, it's a right thing to do, but also I can see the fruit, the goodness that comes out of it. So being honest to my own detriment, I see it as the quickest way, and time is an essence, especially when you get older. time is of essence. You need to get the quickest path to the next level. And the only way is to be honest, to your own detriment. Otherwise, you'll never progress, man. You might walk on other people, whatever it is, to get to a certain place, but that will come tumbling down sooner or later. You can see it in the world today in many people that have built sandcastles. And I won't mention names, obviously, but look how they're coming down hard. It's a law of life. And this, whether you believe biblically in whatever sphere of life life has a way of coming back at you when you build sandcastles, and it will come tumbling down. And from that aspect, I found out that it's best to just be honest to your own detriment. And then, you get to point B very quickly. People might be angry with you, but a lot of the people that you need to stay as a core with you will see the essence and stay with you. Yeah.
What does perseverance mean to you?
Yeah, going through the dwang when it needs you, and having the courage and perseverance. So, perseverance. Obviously, like I said, mine comes from a biblical background. So, I'm going to launch from that. I don't want to Bible bash people. It's just, in my view, wisdom. And there's a scripture in Romans. It says, perseverance produces character, which produces hope. The original character, for those theologians that want to go to the original English, is not character, it's actually experience. And if you don't have perseverance and you don't go through, the fire to the next level, and that you've got no experience, what can you give to me? And another person that's a mentor for me say, look, Fabrizio, you can't give what you don't have. You don't have. And if you don't have experience, what do you have? What are you actually sharing with me? So perseverance is key to you producing and breaking through to the other side. Look, like it or not, many leaders have gone now. I'm sure people know where I'm leading to without mentioning names, but there's a lot of presidential candidates in that have gone through fire, man, like serious fire. And their character, like them or not, has come through, has surfaced. And that kind of perseverance, what they said was, anything worthwhile will never be easy. And, that perseverance goes hand in hand. I think I've preached enough here.
You touched on experience.
Yeah.
What do you mean by experience? What is it about gaining experience or just go through an experience? What does experience mean to you?
No, learning something while you're going through it. I mean, otherwise, what's the use? If you're just going through it because for the fun of it, or for, that was a rush, man, then it's no point. I had to go through it because I was trying to achieve something. If I'm having to go through an experience, let's say, like in my past, long past, through drugs or something like that, yes, I've experienced, but, essentially I've achieved nothing through it, as I now testify, and many around me also testify. So some experience like that is not really worth it. I'm talking about experience, whether it comes to parenting, or experience whether it's opening a business, or, a venture which you've never done before, and, is a first time. Those kind of experiences you go through, even though you don't really have all the expertise on it, you go through something using what you have. That I've learned in my life. You use what you got. You don't wait till it comes before you do it. You actually have to use. That's a biblical principle as well. And then you grow. That is fundamental in experience for me. And then going through to the other side and say, look, I was taught when I was working in my old days that any millionaire in those days, now it's billionaires, has lost their shoes 3 times minimum. That's experience. That a person who's gone through experience and gone again, and gone through experience and gone again. You can't buy that, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just, and those are the characters that rise to the surface. And I think in our country, worldwide, but in our country, I'm living here, but countrywide, if anyone abroad is watching this, would benefit from this kind of thing as an upcoming youngster. That nothing's easy, nothing's going to come easy, but you've got to push through because it will get better. And you only learn through the bad experiences or good experiences, but those bad experiences are also good experiences. That's what I mean.
From our conversation, it's evident that anything within the arts and the entertainment industry is ultimately a form of self-expression, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean to be self-expressed or expressing yourself? What does it mean to you, and ultimately, how do you do it?
I express myself through, through the arts, about the passions I've just stated in our conversation. I bring them across in writing the songs I write. And I have an added level now because I see things in production point of view. So I can do it through ballet, or I can do it through acting. I can do it through colors. I can do it through the actual footage on screens. And bringing all that is a powerful medium to bringing across a message. I think that you can do it in, your self-expression can be in your cooking. You can express yourself in cooking because, there's a love art in cooking. There's a frustrating part in cooking, in what you bring about. And your expression can be even in the workplace. Now, there's a thing about being right-brained or left-brained. I've even found that is it left-brained that is logical? Left-brained. I find a lot of people in the music industry, not too many, but there are a lot of them that are left-brained. If you think about, or predominantly, because they study music, not the creativity of it, but they, in an orchestra, and what they do, they play what they're told. It's not necessarily creative. Now, I'm not knocking them, but I'm saying you can be creative in a lot of other different sides of things and express your emotions, your opinions in so many other ways. The thing about expression is obviously how you come across, non-apologetic, but also, integrity as well. There are boundaries to this thing. Having said everything I've said, is go express yourself, experiment, learn what the boundaries are in various industries and stuff within your expression. Is that fine? Okay. So I found myself in my let's say faith walk. I entered this music journey wanting to have an impact on people for the church and very eager and all that. And I started that way, and that was all good and well. What happened to me is I landed up getting into the Christian industry in the way I had to look, the way I had to sound, the way I had to speak, the way and after many years of what I stood back one day and said, what are you achieving actually? Are you really relevant? And so I went, based on that, I had to take a long, hard look at myself. Now, not according to what someone else was telling me from a stage or so, but actually taking ownership of myself and saying, listen, where are you going here? From that point of view now, expression is, I knew that I was going to start alienating a lot of people that learned to know me for what I had become. But that's not me. Still, after 33 years of being in the Christian, it's not who I am. I am rock and roll. I am that kind of thing. And that's who I've remained even after having kids, after rearing 3 kids, after going. It's the way they know me. They don't know me as this very straight-looking person. And so now what I've done in my later years, I'm going back to my roots. And I'm tackling new subjects. And I'm hoping to reach everyone, because I don't want to be bogged down in my expression. So it will be in the way I portray myself now is not abnormal to me. It's normal. It's the way I always was. It is I was appeasing someone else. And that's so non-rock and roll, really. And that is what I'm saying. People, you can have respect for others, but still be yourself, and that's what I'm basically am now. Does that answer your question, Ben?
Yes. I want you to also make a statement now where you said, I am rock and roll, as an example. Yeah. I need you to also now start leading towards some of the persona. I am unconventional. I am futuristic. I am cyberpunk. I want us to maybe lead
Okay,
to that
got
that
you.
so people will understand where the technology
Okay,
element
got
is at.
you.
Okay, so in the same breath, launch into that. I am those things, and then let's see where it goes.
Okay, go for it. Can I just carry on? Oh. Okay, so myself, my expression going forward is when I said I was rock and roll. The point isn't to make an offensive gesture towards rock and roll, because rock and roll was meant for good and bad, but it's what I've embraced because it's where I come from, my foundations. But going forward, I am going to go through to the futuristic, which is cyberpunk, which is all this kind of stuff. And that is what I'm embracing, because that's my vision, that's where I'm going. For example, if I had to bring Jesus 60 years from now, what would he look like? Would he have been in a robe? Now that kind of thing, hey, rattles people's foundation to the core. And let I mention any other kind of faith walk. So that's where I'm going in my walk going forward. And the thing is, I have to have the freedom to be able to break boundaries here, irrespective of what, the core belief was. We need to move forward with technology, like I mentioned, AI and that. And if we don't get it, we become irrelevant. You're not going to have an impact on anybody. So yes, I'm going to color my hair. I'm going to wear those clothes. I'm going to be unconventional in every single way, if that's the term, but more conventional to where I'm going. So the shock factor can be very negative, but it doesn't necessarily. But let's be honest. There were so many movies made about horror. If you really want a shock factor about blood, there's no more than the death of Jesus Christ. We can really make it gory. Because even movie producers have said that they've actually held their ground. They couldn't really show what happened to him. This is scientifically proven. The same way now, I also want to go and expand on that shock factor to attract attention, because that's the money factor. If you want to attract attention in a world that's so full of information, you become just a small iota in that. I've seen that, everyone's seen that. To get their attention, what are you doing? You're trying to get their attention one way or another. Now, many people are saying, is this trust in the Lord? Yes, but I live here on earth. I have to do this on here. And that's why, going the place I'm going to create the most attention possible to be able to get the message out, whatever it is. I believe that's the champion theory for my cause anyway. Yeah.
Where do you get or draw your inspiration from?
Yeah. I don't really, not from other musicians at all. I don't. So I will, anything will inspire me. I'm inspired by things I see. So let's say I see a movie, or someone will give me an advert or something like that. I immediately put music moods to it. It's the way my mind functions. So it's not like I'll put music and then do the imagery after. I will look at imagery, footage, and then that will inspire me to a certain type, style of music or whatever. And it's like automatic. It's how I draw my inspiration. But there's a saying that says that inspiration sometimes needs to be dragged behind you, kicking and screaming. And that is true, because it's not always there. It's just not always there. People have wandered into all sorts of use of supernatural product to get that inspiration going, which is, it doesn't really work. So I have to sometimes wait for it to happen. And but I think what I see is my process for creating anything, an inspiration, really. Yeah.
Tell us more about your creative process.
Yeah, that was about. I would normally, what I will do in something will spark an inspiration. I don't force my inspiration. So even though I have a deadline or stuff, I won't panic on it. And this also comes with experience. If it's not coming and I've got this, I don't force it, because invariably then I run into a flat wall and it's not going to happen. I just I'll do something else. I love training, so I'll go train, or do something else. I'll talk to my wife or whatever it is. But I won't focus on it or visit it anytime soon. And then all of a sudden, because I had thought about it, and I know in the back of my mind it's there, but I just don't give it the time of day right now. I'll be on a plane or in a car or anything like that, and suddenly it'll just come back to me, and an idea will come association with it. And from that one idea, I will just roll on. And then, man, because you've been given an imaginative mind, the sky is the limit. Then I can go like really overboard, where sometimes my wife has to even say, look, I think you need to to pull it back. Yeah, that's my process.
Right. So we've spoken about Fabrizio as the artist, and the musician and the performer. Tell us a bit more about Fabrizio Morgia, the man.
I have 3 kids. 3 kids, one's overseas. He's a barber, if that's interesting. And then another one's in business. Okay, and I have a daughter that owns a guest house, who's married, who has a kid, a boy, who is my grandchild. I have a grandchild, yeah. I'm married 25 years now. And I love training. I love training a lot. So I really do triathlons a lot. And it keeps me busy, it keeps me active, it keeps me healthy, it keeps me sane, and it keeps my mind young, which is very important. Yeah. Mentally, I believe it has a huge impact on me as a person in general, my outlook, the way I see things. I'm not going to die anywhere anytime soon because of my age or anything like that, and that's just the way I see it. Also, I have passions, like given passions about obviously my faith, about leadership, about failed leadership, about stuff like that, which I seem to deem myself as a very central person. I'm quite a balanced person in terms of right, left brain in the sense, because I used to work for a company called IBM years ago as what they called then a customer engineer, repairing mainframes and that. So I am technical, but I am creative. So I am central. So when I look at these things of leadership and stuff, I don't look at it from a very stern point of view. I'm flexible, but I have very, very definite standpoints of view, very definite passions. I'm very passionate about sport, about the teams I support. Go the Blue. I'll let you decipher who that is. Rugby, that is. And also with regards, I'm a keen Azzurri fan. I'm born in Italy, in Rome, so I support my soccer team. And yeah, I'm a normal person. I just do everything a normal person does. I'm not very airy-fairy in the sky, in the sense that my imagination's always, I put myself through a lot of pain. I don't know why they do. I torture myself in long distances, preparing for stuff like Ironman, but it's just, I like challenging myself. I'm very competitive with myself. I'm very competitive. I don't want to lose. I just don't, and I don't like stopping before the end. It's just not who I am. But I had to become that through lessons, yeah.
You've had quite a dynamic career. Which were some of the highlights for you?
Remission. The Grand West production that we put up with nothing. Just my wife and I went up and we went there and said, I want to do a production. And that was the biggest risk I took in my life. And I'm the better for it. If you had asked me at the time, just after that, I wouldn't have had the same reaction as I have now. But going through a few years on and seeing what that had developed in me as a result of going through it, perseverance, experience, that part of what you call the career, that was the culmination for me. And that's the only reason why I can think of tackling it again in a bigger way now. Yeah, that was definitely the highlight.
In closing, what advice do you have for people wanting to enter the arts and entertainment industry?
Whoa. You First of all, is parents have to be convinced that there is life in the entertainment industry, and to expose kids to that industry as soon as possible. Okay, because the problem is that kids' legs get cut off at the very foundation, and then after they've done the parents' role in the sense of doing academic colors in this, and then they left with very little to work with, because now they're going through varsity and they're in this railway of life, the conveyor belt that everyone goes on. So as a child, show your intent respectfully in expressing yourself in front of your parents as to what you do with drawings, whether it's music. Don't keep it to yourself, but express it to your parents. Make them aware that this is something that you love, that you really want to pursue, because you don't know how to pursue it at that age. But parents, then you put them under pressure to actually acknowledge talents and gifting earlier on in life. Not that they need to exploit them too early, because that's also a problem I see, letting the horse out too early in terms of kids with their talents. They expose them too early in life. I don't mean that, but I mean if you expose your talent as a kid, if this is going before any children, that's what I would do, is look at this, mommy, look what I drew, look, dad, look at this, or play drums, do whatever, but express your gift in front of parents. That was my biggest problem, is that my parents never saw my gifting early. So I had to go through all the academic, not just me, a few like us, and there were no colleges, nothing in my days. There was no one that would share the information, because it was all, hush, hush. And no one would take you into the sound studios. I know I'm letting out a lot of stuff here. No one would share anything. It was so difficult for us in those days. And going to the States, to MIT or something like that, was a far way off. Besides the fact that in my days we had sanctions against us and we were like separated from the world. It was so difficult. Now I would give that as, do not, from the parents' point of view, do not neglect that. I think it's a biggest sin in the world. I was walking 6 Ks to band practice with my guitar, and then 6 Ks back to Hillbrow afterwards, and they didn't spot the passion. I love my parents, Brendan, but that was pretty much missing it. They did what they could do, and this happens in many kids' lives.
What advice do you have then for those youngsters that don't necessarily get the support from their family, but still want to pursue a career or an opportunity to express themselves in the arts and entertainment?
In school. Not all schools have availability to it, but don't be shy. Shyness is not going to get you anywhere. So if you are doing class lessons, music, singing lessons, whatever it is, throw your weight in it and expose yourself. That is the biggest thing you can learn, is without exposure, you're just an act in the back room. No one knows about your talent. And it's all for me, and I'm doing my humble self. It doesn't work. Throw yourself in. Don't be arrogant necessarily in it. You'll learn the arrogance as you go in it. People will show you what arrogance is, but start. Even if it comes out arrogant and you get scolded for it, so what? That goes back to what I was saying earlier. That's the negative experience, and that's the humility to learn from it. So I would say, go to your teachers when there's a chance, when there's a music class, or when there's break. Can I play the guitar at break? I'm just throwing ideas. But so that people see that you're gifted in this area. Exposure is everything. Or you could actually ask your parents to do it, like my daughter's doing, and she's done a video of my grandson, I've got a grandchild, singing. And she's just posting it on YouTube. They're backing him. Kids can do that themselves because they are so good with their own phones. And expose yourself in that way. Just get exposure. Get yourself thinking in terms of the creative, and it'll start mushrooming. But if you don't start something, and nothing will happen.